Good evening, it's Jules Wyman here from juleswyman.com, and I've got a double reflection in my glasses because, as usual, at the top I have got my phone out and I am going to share, because that's the kind of gal I am. I like to share stuff. So I'm going to share, once I can find it, my video as it's going live, which I can see it's there. So I'm just going to share that to my page. And I'm just going to say, come and join the convo, because I'm that kind of person that I want to abbreviate things as well. And for those of you who've watched any of this before, you know that me trying to type and talk at the same time is posing challenges. So there we go. That is all done. And I can bring my note. I was looking at this earlier as I was setting up, and I was like, oh, I look like I'm doing very official news reading kind of stuff. So I'm going to be looking at the camera kind of weirdly because, or can I take that? Oh no, I can take those off. Actually, that'll be fine. She says, letting her eyes adjust. So good evening, and to those of you, I'm saying good evening, but I know that the majority of people who watch these videos actually watch it on the hashtag replay. So for those of you who are watching on the replay, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good night, as Truman would say in the Truman Show. Welcome along. And for those of you that are joining live, please do drop in down below and just give me a hi, give me a wave, give me a smile, give me some emojis, whatever is your favorite MO. Let's get some conversation going, because it would be fantastic to be able to give you a shout out, same as I say every week on the replay. And what I'm noticing at the moment is these videos are getting shared a lot, and they are also being viewed a lot after they've aired. So good evening, Tiffany. Haven't seen you for a while, my lovely. I hope you are well. So it would be really fantastic to be able to, like I just have with Tiffany, give you a shout out. And you can do that. Obviously, I can't give you a shout out if you're watching it on the recording, but still do type in hello, because I will come back and Tiffany type back in as well. So do the usual things as you would do on Facebook, which is share this. If you want to share it with somebody and you're worried that they're not on Facebook, that's fine. You can go to my YouTube channel, just put Jules Wyman into YouTube and you'll find my channel. Good evening, Joe, how are you? And you can find the videos get put up there. I don't know how quick. I think it's something like 12-ish, 12, 24 hours. They're definitely up within 24 hours. So you can go onto there and find the video and share it with somebody if they're not on Facebook. So that will give the opportunity. As I've said so many times before, the whole purpose of this is planting seeds, offering support, being able to help people start to make a difference for themselves and put those steps in place. Good evening, Comfort. Now, Comfort, Joe's already replied. Comfort, I did post something this evening. I'm talking directly to you. That's only because I know that you expressed an interest in the Feeling Good event. Now, obviously, with everything that's going off in the world of coronavirus, and it does seem to be a world event, which is not something that many of us have experienced before. So my colleague and I, Tracy, were going to be doing a live event in York, or just outside of York actually, at the end of next month. But as things are transpiring, it doesn't look like that's going to go ahead in person. However, we would still like to do something, and so we are looking at doing it online. And on this page, I put up a question earlier about whether you would be interested in the online event or whether you would be interested in the postponement of which it would probably be October, November. Kind of depends on how all of this viral thing unfolds. But basically, I would love to know your opinion. If you're somebody that would really love, the whole day is about stress, anxiety, and worrying, and over-worrying, overthinking, and how to deal with all of that. So if that's something that you would like to know about the online event, if you make sure that on this page, I don't know whether you'd be able to do it now or whether you'd have to wait for the video to end, and I can't really see that myself because obviously I'm the admin on it. but you can scroll down. It's the pinned post actually at the top of the page, and just put a number 1 or a number 2, or if you've got another idea of how we can do it and reach and support people, then please do let me know. And then once we've got an idea of numbers, we can look at how best we can do that and start putting things out there for you to sign up. But keep the date free, because we'll still do it on the same date. That makes it easy for everybody involved, and it would just be fantastic to have you there. So yeah, bit of unusual times that that we find ourselves in. And one of the things that I've noticed over the last, specifically 2 days, that I've noticed it in my social media feeds, and also I'm aware of it on the radio. So when there's, especially when there's any, well, I was going to say when there's any news being read, but actually I've heard the DJs mention it as well. Apologies for the background noise. I've just realized I've got my dishwasher going. Ever so sorry. Hey, that is life. You're welcome, Comfort. So the word that I've been hearing, which is not a word that I tend to hear that much, and maybe it's because it's becoming to the collective consciousness, is around uncertainty, or it's uncertain times, and we're in uncertain times. And so I'm going to, what I would love to do this evening, and I really genuinely would love to know your thoughts, concerns, worries. I was going to do this as an open forum, but I'm going to give it the framework of uncertain times around what's happening. So if anybody has, if you've got any specific questions that relate to this, or any worries that you would like a conversation or some coaching around, then please do put it in the comments below. As ever, don't wait to be invited, as all these lovely people have already shown. You can type a hello or other comments in at any point, and if I don't get to them immediately, I will get to them as soon as I possibly can. But what I wanted to do this evening, so if you've got any concerns or any worries or anything that you would like to share in relation to this uncertain times, or these uncertain times that we're facing or currently in, then please do put them in the comments below. So my framework for this evening is I want to acknowledge upfront that from my perspective, even though it's you know, this is how hilarious it is, I have had clients messaging me saying with my health condition they would prefer to have video coaching, which is absolutely not a problem. I coach people all over the world via the internet. So for me, I'm very lucky in that sense that my business is already, a lot of it, obviously not my live events, but a lot of it is already online. So what I would love to do is I want to frame that up straight away, that I've already got something where I'm already using this mode. Now, for a lot of people, that's not what they do, that's not how they work, and that could be creating uncertain times. I also want to acknowledge that I'm single and I don't have children, so therefore I'm not dealing with anybody else's emotional stuff around that. So I want to acknowledge that I'm not living in the same world as you may well be, which is why I'm inviting any comments or concerns or any thoughts that you may have on it. Please do put them below. Let's have this conversation. Because whilst I may not be in the same situation as you, I may have some other ways of helping you see what's going on. Other people may have other ways of seeing what's going on that can be helpful and resourceful for you. I also want to acknowledge that obviously I'm self-employed, I'm not employed. So therefore my income is based on me and what I do. Yes, it's based on clients as well, but a lot of it is about me and driven by me. If I don't put the work in, I don't get the income back. Whereas if you're employed, I recognize that that's a different situation. I also want to recognize that there are some people who are in quite tough situations. So the thought of being isolated, as some of you may know, I volunteer at a charity, a women's charity in York. And for some of those people, actually being isolated, potentially with their abuser, is obviously not going to be an easy thing at all. So the reason, and then there's all sorts of complications and differences that I haven't even recognized or thought about, whether it be to do with illness or reaching, one of my concerns at the moment is my grandfather who's 102 and my mum who's 78, both of which are, she'll probably kill me for saying that and sharing that with people, but anyway, Mum, you're elderly. She'll never see it, never see it. It's a running gag that we have about her being elderly. But both of them are 200 miles away. So if I'm self-isolating, how can I get to support them? So there's a lot of things that are going on, and there's a lot of, I don't think there's one size fits all. I think there's personal perspective on all of this. And I just want to frame everything up in that way. And then what I would like to do, and as I say, if you've got any specific comments, questions or concerns that you would like to put in the comments box, please do. But what I would like to offer is another way of looking at all of this. So when something gets reiterated over and over again, there was a fantastic graphic that was, in fact, let me just see, apologies, this is extremely unprofessional, but let me just see if I can find this graphic because it's one that I found really helpful when I saw it. And it put things in perspective in relation to, here we go. Put things in perspective into the mentions of coronavirus in the media in comparison to SARS and HIV and MERS and Ebola. So I don't know whether you can see, let me see if I can do that. Can you see the difference between all of those and how many different mentions of things that this particular virus has had in comparison to all of these others? And what can happen is this can then feed a sort of like a frenzy and insecurity for people. And I think that that's why this word uncertainty has come up over and over again. I started running a workshop for a client of mine a couple of years ago now, which is called Taking Control in Uncertain Times. And the reason I created that workshop for them at their request was because their staff, which is across a lot of public sector, they were facing a lot of change, which public sector does, especially the NHS, does frequently anyway. So I've noticed that this word uncertain time, and this is why I started that workshop a couple of years ago, and I know that uncertainty and uncertain were not words that were commonly being used. Of course, everyone knows what it is, but it wasn't freely being used. Whereas in the last couple of days, the phraseology that is being used, and especially in the media reports, is it's uncertain, we're uncertain, we're uncertain, we're in uncertain times, we're uncertain, and we are, because we're facing something collectively that we've not faced before. But the way it's being dialogued and the tonality around it is making it scary, or implying it's something that we need to be scared of. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not being flippant about the potentials of the virus and the impact that it can have on people. What I'm talking about is the fear that we're in uncertain times can drive, because the thinking mind, our psychology, loves to have certainty, because then it knows how to be or how to identify with what's going on. But when it's got uncertainty, it's a bit like, well, how and who and where do I show up, and how does that all work with everything? So that is kind of becomes a bit of an unhelpful trigger word. Good evening to those of you who are just joining, by the way. So it becomes an unhelpful trigger word for people. So the first thing that I would like to suggest to all of us, this is something very simple that very few people do and don't do enough, and I include myself in that. Which is to stop and breathe and take some really deep breaths as slow and as comfortably as you can. That in and of itself can help us from a physiological perspective, relax. Do drop down and say hi, those of you just joining live, by the way. It can help us from a physiological perspective to relax, to just recognize that we're not in immediate danger. For the majority of us, we are not in immediate danger. Yes, we may be in an uncertain time, but we are not in immediate danger. Therefore, we can relax. And when we relax, it's like years ago, I was told that when you're, this was actually in relation to doing improv comedy. And when you're given a bit of a challenge in improv comedy, like somebody says, well, you know, where did you get your wooden leg from? That instead of going, it's not a wooden leg, it's titanium, it's that you accept what's being said, you say yes. And the reason for that is that when we say no, if that's a neurological pathway, when we say no or any form of negation, that closes down, and therefore our ability to access information from within is limited. Whereas when we say yes, I carved it myself this morning, that opens up and gives us access to more information and more possibility. And whilst we may not be in a comedy sketch right now, who knows? Maybe that's the big thing. It's all one big comedy sketch. I don't know. But what it does is that gives us an opportunity when we're in that relaxed state and go, okay, I'm in this space and this isn't what I planned. It's not something I've been into before, and that's okay. It's okay for me to not know. It's okay for me to be looking for possibility. But when we say no or panic with that, we're going to close down the possibilities of being able to think in a different way. Whereas when we say yes, we're going to open that out and give ourselves, okay, well, what can I do? How can I do this? What is possible for me? So the first thing that I would suggest for you to do is to relax. And the best and easiest way to do that is to take some deep breaths. So thank you to those who are joining and are liking. That's lovely. Remember to like the page, by the way, as well as liking this video and sharing this video. Do like the page. The second thing that I would, and I'm saying this in number terms, I haven't actually got it written out like that, so I might be all over the place. I do apologise. I'm uncertain as to where this may go. One of the things that I think would be helpful for us all to start thinking about is, and believe me, it's something, I've had a lot of things been going on, not related to the whole coronavirus stuff, that is giving me the opportunity to look at things from this perspective, is getting clear for yourself, myself in that instance, of what are you making uncertainty mean? What does that mean to you? What are you making it mean? Because like if I said the word success or happiness or love or work, you know, we have meanings that we have created around all of that. You know, I could say the word work to one person and their shoulders can slump and they drop down. I could say work to another person and they're like, brilliant. So we all have our meanings. And when it comes to uncertainty, and this is for me why it's important to be mindful of what's being said in the media. And when these words are being picked up on, rather than reacting to it and contracting to it, it's like, okay, what's going on for me within that? What am I making that word mean? What's the assumptions that I'm making around that? What expectations do I have around that? I know when I've worked with people one-on-one that uncertainty has been a word that's come up, and usually when we perceive we're uncertain of something in whatever way, shape or form that may be surfacing, is that that can trigger, I'm out of control. And then that can trigger all sorts of different perceptions around that. Isn't everything uncertain anyway? We kid ourselves that we have control. Perfect timing, Comfort. Look at that. I hadn't even read that comment. That's exactly it. We think we have control, when in actual fact we don't have control. I have absolutely no control as to whether I will get ill. I just don't. But what I can do is I was talking with a colleague about this earlier. You know, I can't control what will happen within this body. I couldn't control when I got ill a couple of years ago. I can't control where my kidneys are at this moment in time, but I can do everything possible to create the right environment for whatever happens. And when I mean the right environment, it goes back to what I was just saying about breathing. You know, if I can create a mindset and a body that is strong and relaxed, then that's going to be a far more resourceful space. There is tons and tons of research of the impact of stress and fear on the body, what it does, and more specifically, what it does to the immune system. So if you really want to boost your immune system, to a certain degree, it's like forget about the paracetamols and pump up the relaxation. You know, there's I may have mentioned it before, but this is one of my favorite apps is, oh, where's the camera? It's there. That one in the middle there. Or there, I can't get the lighting right. Can't see it properly. It's called Insight Timer, and it's a meditation app. I use it every day, at least once a day, to meditate, because that helps me. I do it first thing in the morning, and it helps relax me and get me in a much better focused way of being. So think about how you can do that for your body, because that is going to help your immune system. Does it guarantee that I'm not going to get ill? No, but at least it gives me a stronger stance to come from, as opposed to being in that stressful, fearful, I'm uncertain, panicky space. Does that make sense? Let me know if that's making sense. So get very clear on your meaning around the word uncertainty, and if you can change the word uncertainty. I was listening to a guy called Kerwin Ray recently. I've posted one of his videos on here before now, and he was talking about how when most people hear the word recession, they shrink down and they panic and they're like, oh, you know, go into a fearful space. Whereas he hears the word recession and he's like, great, what can I do? How can I make this different? What possibilities are there? Let me get my head up and start looking around. And to me, this situation that we're facing at this moment in time, however it may be impacting you, is a similar thing. And the sort of like the final thing that, unless obviously anyone wants to ask any questions or any comments or concerns or anything that they want to input, please do. But the final thing that I would encourage you to think about is, if you are somebody who is challenged with facing these uncertain times as they keep being described, is think through your life. And I am going to make this assumption that the majority of you are over your teenage years, that you are beyond that. I know I do have some younger viewers as well, but the majority of you are going to be doing that. Judging by the statistics on Facebook, you're between the age of 35 and 55. And the majority of you women, but we do have some wonderful gentlemen as well. But the thing is that however many decades you've been on this planet, you will have faced uncertain times before. I certainly have. I could sit and list, we could spend another 3-4 hours going through my list. But, you know, for example, when my marriage broke down and I made the decision that was it, I couldn't go any further with it and was going to leave, I was in an uncertain territory. I'd not lived on my own and been self-employed before. Just that hadn't happened. So it was an uncertain area, and rented a whole house. I'd never done that before. When I have faced illness, I had no idea what was going to happen there, no idea the impact it was going to have on the business, whether that was going to be helpful, not helpful, etc., etc. So therefore, that was causing, created uncertainty. But only when I describe it in that way, only when I, as you've said, comfort, it's only when we perceive that I've lost control, we've lost control. Well, we didn't really have it in the first place, but I know that will trigger a lot of you in certain ways. But we don't. If you think you've got control, then stop your hair from growing. If you think you've got control, stop your nails from growing. We haven't got control. So what I would invite you to do is, if you are somebody who's really challenged with facing what's going on at this moment in time, is take a moment and think through your life, even if it's just back the last 10 years. Think through those. There's going to be a handful, I'm sure, of significant events that have happened in your life that have been that where you would have been classed as uncertain, i.e. you were out of control, redundancy, death, disease, divorce, any other D's. I can't think of anything else now, cancellations of things, or I can't think of anything off the top of my head now, but that you will have faced those sort of things, relationships breakup if it's not been a divorce, health issues, all of these things are these curveballs. And whatever happened, you found a way through it to get to where you are today. Now, it doesn't mean to say that you necessarily did that in a graceful, joyous, perfect, amazing way. It may have been clumsy and messy and hard. In fact, it probably was. But nonetheless, you found a way through it. So the majority of us, find our way through this. And it's a bit like a season change. When we go from autumn into winter and the temperature changes and the leaves drop and the landscape changes, it's kind of what's going on at this moment in time. Things are changing. We are going to have to adjust how we work for a period of time. We are going to have to adjust how we interact with people for a period of time. We are going to have to alter plans, potentially look for different ways of working and all sorts of things. And some of that will be, you will have choice to be able to make from that. Some of it will be thrust on you. But what you always have the possibility of is the choice of what you can do from that point. You may not have choices to the event. I think it was Dennis Kimbo that said life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. And to me, see if you can step out of the reactiveness and step into a response, which means pausing and just going, okay, how can I deal with this? What is the thing that's going to help me moving forward? So I hope that's helped you, give you some different views on things. Let me know below what your thoughts are. And as I've said, if you've got any comments, questions, concerns, worries, we've got some time now that feel free to type them in right now, and we can go through those. Any sorts of things that you've got that's challenging you in relation to these uncertain times. They're uncertain. How amazing is that? We don't know. How many of us get bored of routine, offered the opportunity to do things differently? I did bring a lot of work home with me tonight. This is before I heard the Prime Minister's announcements today, and was meant to be going to see two clients tomorrow, and they phoned me and said, actually, can we do it over video? Absolutely no problem. And immediately then, whilst I'm sorting my dinner out, I'm like, okay, so I don't have an office space as such at home. So I'm like, okay, I need to be disciplined here. I need to look at how and where I can do things so I don't get distracted by the dishwasher or other things, and I can stay focused in a work way. And that's going to take some adjustment for me. But it is possible. It is possible. What specifically those things will be at the moment, I don't know. But it is possible. It is about finding different ways. And sometimes that means that we're going to make a mistake whilst we find our way there, but that's okay. Joe says, that makes perfect sense. Just wish we could get over to the manic people in the supermarket. Yeah, I get that, Joe. And, again, I had a lovely conversation with a friend of mine today, and we were talking about how, if any of you have seen my talk, How Infectious Are You? Quite an apt title right now, right? It's about how infectious is your attitude, how infectious is your are your assumptions on your behavior and how you show up in the world. And one of the questions that I use as a coach anyway, but I also found the power of whilst I was in hospital, is getting curious as I wonder what could be going on for them to be behaving in that way. So if you think about somebody who's panic buying, then they're not doing it to be malicious to other people. They're doing it for their own fear, their own insecurity. And that doesn't make them right or wrong. It's just about acknowledging that, you know, I went to the supermarket the other day and there were various things that were empty, and surprisingly not toilet roll. I managed to get some toilet roll because I needed some. But there were other things that were empty, and I can just acknowledge, okay, well, people have bought those because they're worried about their families and, you know, how to make sure things are going to be fine. And I get that. So what can I do as an alternative, rather than me getting annoyed at them, and because I don't know what could be going on for them to behave in that way. So I think we need to be careful with judging other people's behaviours. As long as it's not physically impacting on us, we just need to look in other ways. Rob says, hey Jules, hope you're well and avoiding all of the idiotic people who have left no food for us all. I've just said all of that. Just come back from M&S, and since the latest update this afternoon, all the shelves have been emptied by panic buyers. I'm scared to death of uncertainty, and this is just the start of a very big problem. Okay, Rob, so I would really encourage you to think about what you make uncertainty mean, because there has to be some assumptions going on. So I'm going to make the assumption, if I was being, and listen to the language that you've used, scared to death. And you know what that used to be, or what they would note down, coroners would actually write down that somebody was scared to death, because whether they realized it or not, there is a link. You can get to the point of being so frightened internally that can have a physical impact, because the mind has an impact over the body, and we need to be very aware of that. So I would kind of take it down from DEFCON 5 and lower it down to, is okay, I'm not sure of uncertainty, and I don't know how to deal with uncertainty. But there's a phrase that, it's really interesting. This has come up time and time again with clients, and which is why I'm saying reflect on previous things in your life where you've been uncertain and yet you found a way through. And this is a phrase that pretty much all of them, whenever we have this conversation, it comes up, which is, I found a way, or I always find a way. Somebody commented, one of my clients commented on that recently, I always find a way. So, you know, I think it's important for you to remember that, Rob. You know, you have faced uncertain times before and you found a way. Wasn't necessarily easy. Outcome possibly wasn't the way that you wanted it to, but you have found a way. And that's what's important. And other people are panic buying, and that's their way of dealing with what's going on. I very much doubt that, you know, ultimately supermarkets want to keep the food there, okay? Because if they don't keep the food there, then people are not going to go and shop, and therefore not going to go and spend. And if they're not going to do that, that's going to have a significant impact on the supermarkets, which potentially could mean closures, etc., etc. So they are going to do everything that they can. You know, I was in M&S earlier today as well. I could still see food. May not have been the food that I wanted or that I'd gone in for, but there was still food in there. The shelves weren't completely empty, not every single one of them. So we need to be as careful of the over dramatization that our thinking can do, and not buy into the media's over dramatization as well. I hope that makes sense, Rob. So I can understand that uncertainty, but downgrade it a bit and just look at, you've dealt with uncertainty before, you'll find a way through this. We all haven't. And the thing is, with this, it's like, I don't know if you've seen any of the videos that have come out of Italy in particular. It kind of makes me a little bit jealous that I don't live in an apartment block, because there's these huge apartment blocks. Bearing in mind, Italy have been in lockdown for what, is it 2 weeks, 3 weeks? And people are launching into operatic areas, and other people are joining in from across a balcony. So the communities are connecting in a very different way. You know, that they're singing to each other. So another one this evening where some guy's playing an instrument and someone else on another balcony has got tambourine, and there's a kid just dancing on the balcony. So, you know, that everything's fine. It's not necessarily easy, but they're finding a way to keep those spirits up. in Wuhan, they were singing and shouting messages of support and love to each other. You know, I think in Spain, one of my friends put that everyone was doing applause and banging on their balconies to say thank you to all the medical staff. And, you know, we're all in a similar boat. So ultimately, we will, it's the whole, what gets referred to as the Dunkirk spirit, we will pull together, because that's what we naturally do as human beings. We actually like to help each other in those tough situations. So, you know, be careful, downgrade that language from being manic, step it down, and just recognize, okay, so I'm in a place that I've not been before. Yeah, I don't know what the protocol is. I don't know how to deal with this, but I'll do my best. I'll do what I can and reach out for support in other ways as well. So I hope that's helped you, Rob, if you're still online. And if there's anybody watching this, whether you're watching it now or whether you're watching it on the recording, and if you really are struggling and you want some support, then please do reach out to me. And even if it's not me that can immediately help you, I will do my best to guide you, whether it's to helpful videos or whether it's a helpful book or whether it is jumping on and having a call with me or whatever it may be. I will do my best to be able to support you in these times. But just remember, get clear on what you think is going on for yourself. Take those deep breaths and then look at actually what it is that you can do in that moment, rather than focusing on what you can't and you don't know what's going to. None of us have got a crystal ball. None of us. I heard one of the journalists asking the Prime Minister this evening, you know, how long is this going to be for? Well, they can only give a rough idea because they don't know what's going to happen. Nobody has got that crystal ball. So, well, I'm sure that there are people who have got crystal balls, but there's very few people that can really tell the truth, tell the future even. That was a Freudian slip. So just be mindful of that. You can only deal with what's going on right here, right now. And that's what's important. That's what's helpful. Like being in the supermarket. Okay, so there weren't any of the vegetables that I wanted in one particular section. So I just went through my head and went, okay, so what else can I make instead? I changed that recipe for something else and got some different things and actually came away with some quite random stuff. But it's okay. I'll find a way. You know, ultimately, I'm not going to starve. I will find a way, as you know, I'm sure we all will. So I really hope that you found this evening of value. If, as I've said before, if you've got specific things that you would like me to talk about, I would rather not keep going over the whole coronavirus side of things, but if there are specific things that are coming up for people that they would like a topic on, then please do either put a message in this video or message me direct on this page, and I will absolutely look at doing more. But equally, I think there's other things that we can look at and be mindful of that insecurity, and we can become ingenious in ways of how we can best support ourselves, support each other, and look after each other. So wherever you are and however this is impacting you, take care of yourself, be kind to yourself, and be kind to others. And yeah, I'm here if you need me. So take care, and I'll catch up with you soon.